The truth occurs.
Hi everyone. I'd like to give you another update on the Ebola situation. There's a lot of scary news out there, but in any case we'll know, I think, very soon how contagious this really is and whether this is going to be the big pandemic in the US or in North America or not. Ebola nightmare scenario unfolds. Infected nurse takes commercial plane flight with 132 passengers. Plane makes 5 more flights. So in case you haven't heard, a second nurse who treated Thomas Eric Duncan, her name is Amber Vinson, has come down with Ebola. This is so crazy. She's a nurse. She should know better. I don't even know how this happened. But she treats an Ebola patient and then she gets on a plane to Ohio, and while there she develops symptoms. She has a fever of 99.5, gets back on the plane to go back to Dallas with the CDC's okay because she was below the Ebola threshold of 100.4. She just treated someone with Ebola. She has preliminary Ebola symptoms, but the fever is below 100.4, so let her get on the plane. It should be okay. Then she gets to the hospital in Dallas and her fever is 100.3. Still below the Ebola cutoff, so she had Ebola. Good thing they didn't send her home. I don't want to judge her, but I'm kind of thinking, what kind of an idiot treats an Ebola patient and then gets on a plane when they're sick with Ebola symptoms? Meanwhile, on a cruise ship in Belize, a man who had worked with blood samples from Thomas Eric Duncan decided to go take a cruise with his partner and headed down to Belize. He's symptom-free, but he and his partner are being quarantined in a ship cabin. The U.S. asked Belize to allow them to go to an airport to fly back to the U.S., and Belize was like, no! The thought of people traveling around with Ebola is pretty scary. This story really bugs me. Ebola ruled out as passenger dies on Nigerian flight to JFK. He was coming from Nigeria. He goes into a barfing fit, dies on the plane. What happens? Well, the CDC comes in. For some reason, they leave the door of the plane open. And then they give a cursory examination and say it's not Ebola. Guy dies after a vomiting fit on a flight from Nigeria. Take a look at him. It's not Ebola. Nothing to see here, folks. Keep shopping. Now, let me tell you what Nigeria did to deal with the Ebola epidemic. Here's what we should learn from Nigeria's incredible effort to shut down Ebola. Well, first of all, they figured out who the original case was, like the index case, and then they found out who all his contacts were, and so on and so forth, their contacts. And they actually made home visits to 18,500 people. I mean, they really went all out to talk to everyone. And so they quarantined the contacts, the immediate contacts. Did I get that right? Let me just check. Officials made a staggering 18,500 face-to-face visits. So Nigeria has dealt well with the Ebola problem. And what have they been doing in America? The CDC says, if you were on the plane, please contact us. That's it. Just, get in touch with us. Yeah. And they're counting on it that the people who are on the flight have their shit together and are not, maybe like somewhere on a drunken bender. I don't want to make it sound like they haven't taken any definitive action. In fact, Obama is appointing an Ebola czar. So while Nigeria is busy making face-to-face visits, America is creating more bureaucracy. Okay, so the thing is, the Ebola incubation period is usually, 2 to 21 days? So should know within about 3 weeks whether you can get it from just sitting on a plane with someone who has only the preliminary symptoms and is not expelling bodily fluids. So far, they're thinking that if somebody coughs and then touches the surface, that shouldn't give you Ebola. Although they don't really know for sure. And 21 days is for 95% of people. But the WHO says that actually in about 5% of cases it could take up to 42 days or an unknown period for 2%. Why don't they know how long it takes? And here's one last thing that is interesting. Why can't we have more magic blood for Ebola? I know a lot of people are talking about the Ebola vaccine. It's being developed It takes time, though, to develop a vaccine and to distribute it. And I don't think this is going to be a case of millions of doses being available and millions of people being forcibly vaccinated. I mean, not anywhere in the near future. I think actually, if anything, it could get to the point where there wouldn't be enough vaccine. And you guys know that I'm not like a big pro-vaccine person or anything, but I could see more the scenario that there wouldn't be enough, that people would be asking for it, and there wouldn't be enough, and it would be going to sort of the VIPs, let's say. But there's another treatment, which is a convalescent serum treatment, the decades-old treatment that may save a young Dallas nurse infected with Ebola. The problem is it has to be a match, but it's still really interesting because what this would mean would be that you could take the blood from the recovered person, providing they're of the same blood type, and just inject it into the sick person, and that would help them recover. I'm thinking of like this apocalyptic scenario where everyone's got Ebola and people are like giving themselves blood transfusions in their own homes in desperation. The problem is, for some reason, over here in North America, nobody knows what their blood type is, but you might want to find out. Not medical advice though, I'm just saying. In the article, they say that they think that ZMapp is the best bet for treatment. Although they say early in the article that it was given to some people, they don't really know whether it works. But they do know that convalescent serum works. So why is ZMapp the treatment of choice? Well, probably because it's got a patent and someone's making money off it. So that's my Ebola update. I guess we'll just have to sit tight and see what happens. We should know pretty soon, like I said. And let me know what you think. And thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.